On a quiet Tuesday afternoon in the affluent suburb of Oak Ridge, a single unread email became the first crack in a $15 million lie that would eventually lead to a shallow grave. To the world, Elias Thorne was the gold standard of financial success, a sophisticated wealth manager who didn't just handle money, he curated legacies. But behind his bespoke suits and the calm, rhythmic tapping of his expensive fountain pen lay a psychological maze of predatory greed and a dark, escalating obsession with control. The story of Elias and his most prominent client, Julian Vane, began 20 years ago in a shared college dorm. Julian was the visionary, a tech entrepreneur who struck it rich early, while Elias was the steady hand, the loyal friend who promised to protect Julian's fortune so Julian could focus on changing the world. For 2 decades, they were inseparable, godfathers to each other's children and partners in every sense of the word. However, as Julian's wealth grew into the tens of millions, Elias's resentment grew alongside it. He didn't want to manage the throne, he wanted to sit on it. By the spring of 2025, the facade began to crumble. Elias had been operating what investigators later called a ghost portfolio, a sophisticated web of offshore accounts and shell companies designed to siphon Julian's funds into Elias's failing private investments. To Julian, the monthly statements showed steady 8% growth. In reality, the accounts were being bled dry. The tension reached a breaking point when Julian announced he wanted to liquidate $5 million for a new charitable foundation. Elias knew that if Julian looked too closely at the ledger, the 20-year betrayal would be exposed in seconds. On the night of June 14th, Elias invited Julian to a secluded lake house, ostensibly to celebrate their 2-decade partnership and sign the liquidation papers. There were no witnesses, no cameras, and no struggle that the neighbors could hear. Elias had meticulously planned the perfect disappearance. He used his knowledge of Julian's habits to send delayed send emails from Julian's account, making it appear as though his friend had suddenly fled to South America to escape a personal crisis. For 3 weeks, the digital ghost of Julian Vane continued to exist, while his body lay buried beneath the floorboards of a tool shed Elias had rented under a false name. The investigation began not with a body, but with a behavioral anomaly. Julian's sister, a linguist, noticed that the emails being sent from Julian's account used Oxford commas, something Julian, a notorious hater of formal grammar, never did. When she took her suspicions to the authorities, the digital trail Elias thought he had covered began to unravel. Detectives used cell tower triangulation to show that Elias's phone and Julian's missing phone were in the exact same location for 48 hours after the disappearance. The breakthrough came through forensic accounting and psychological profiling. Investigators found that Elias had been researching scopolamine and hydrostatic burial on an encrypted browser months before. When police finally raided the tool shed, they found a single gold-plated fountain pen, the same one Elias used to sign the forged liquidation papers, dropped in the dirt near the burial site. It was a poetic slip from a man who believed he was too intelligent to leave a trace. In the courtroom, the defense tried to paint Elias as a man who suffered a mental break under financial pressure, but the prosecution's behavioral analysts told a different story. They described a calculating predator who viewed his best friend not as a person, but as a bank account to be harvested. Elias Thorne was sentenced to life without parole, leaving behind a community shattered by the realization that the greatest dangers often come from the people we trust the most. The case serves as a haunting reminder that in the world of high finance and deep friendship, the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, It's a pen in the hands of a man who feels he is owed the world.